Thank you very much, Jonathan, for the introduction, and welcome, everyone. The question I would like to pose today is, with all of the excitement going on in AI, all the things you heard about yesterday, the incredible changes, but also the constraints, the concerns, how can we use AI today, tomorrow, next week, when you go back to your offices, for what I think may be the most interesting capability, and that is to help us make better decisions as individuals, as organizations, and improve the work we do and the world around us. So we'll talk about this just quickly by diving into, I think, an operational model for how to actually pull these AI capabilities into our decision-making operations right now, whether they're in your organization or personally, and what kind of platforms and what kind of examples can we see right now that people are doing where we can learn from this, yeah? So first I just want to start with a little bit of, maybe I'll come over here so I'm not blocking the screen. Just a quick recap, right? So artificial intelligence is a broad category of all the technologies essentially that are trying to perform tasks that historically we've believed only humans can perform, thus the name. They fall into three broad categories. AI models think, sense, and act. Now the sensing is fairly straightforward, right? AI models can see, hear, smell, taste. They're taking in information. You'll hear words like computer vision, natural language processing to describe that. Traditionally, AI models have been thinking, and this is where we'll focus most on today, is this decision-making part. So the terms you're hearing, machine learning, deep learning, simulation models, these are thinking. Acting is what's really captured everyone's attention recently, right? The ability to generate new content, which is what the generative AI models do, ChatGPT and everything that's getting all the attention, and most recently, the idea of AI agents, agentic AI, which can actually act on our behalf. Sense by gathering information, think, make or recommend a decision, and if it's within constraints, actually have the AI go ahead and make those changes in whatever system. So this is what we're seeing with autonomous vehicles. This is what we're seeing with a lot of operational AI running cities. My own background as an urbanist, I'll focus on some examples in development and operating cities for this. Where does this stuff fall into the overall idea? So as I said, AI is this big, broad category, covers almost everything here. Machine learning is the most commonly used approach to having AI be able to actually learn and therefore do all the bits we described. Within that, deep learning is the notion it starts to behave more, and neural networks fall into this category, like a human brain. So it's just getting better at the learning. And it's these machine learning, deep learning models that are enabling the current massive push in generative AI, where we're actually generating new content. That's ChatGPT writing essays, that's art being created. And within that, the large language models, which are getting the most press, are specifically those that are tailored to human languages. Okay, so this is the world in which all the noise is currently being made. What does that look like in terms of change? It has been blinding. The rate of change and improvement technologically in these models has been absolutely astounding. There are now more than 1,500 generative AI large language tools out on the market. We get 10 or more large language models coming out, revisions, improvements every week, and there are over 100 open source projects that the developers are free to participate in, and we are crowdsourcing these improvements, and 100+ startups every month, new projects and new startups being formed. It is too much to wrap our heads around. We do our best to try to keep track of what's going on, but it is moving on its own, which means, this is just an eye chart showing you the releases of the different, these are the foundational models, not even the specific targeted bits. These are the big core foundational LLMs starting in November 2022 with ChatGPT's release. The number of different releases that primarily the larger commercial bodies and, of course, the open source projects have been generating. And you'll see some of the largest tech companies in the world are involved in both, right? They're generating proprietary tools and technologies, but they're also sponsoring, hosting, and participating in the open source models. So the level of activity is a little bit beyond comprehension, which means, as ever, that it is both a tremendous opportunity and, of course, a fair amount of risk. Mitigating that risk as an individual and as an organization means thinking about what are these technologies good at doing currently? What are they capable of doing currently? What are they less good at doing? What are the risks? How do we actually start investing in the right steps and experimenting as we learn? This is not going to happen overnight in terms of being able to actually use the stuff in our work. But if we wait and wait and wait, we will get sort of left swept behind, not understanding what's going on. So the major move that we're seeing in organizations is a move from what we've been doing for a long time with things like robotic process automation, which is process automation in the enterprises and organizations as we currently see them, into a layer of AI augmentation and then processing. That means instead of the sales and the services and the finance and the legal processes simply being automated, they are all now, in every aspect, we're seeing a GPT type of amendment to it, right? So we can interact with these processes, and we see agentic AI coming into these processes also. Like I said, it's an evolution moving from the beginnings where we're augmenting human decision-making and activity to the next stages where the AI can automate bits itself, to where we expect to be in the fairly near future, where as organizations, even if we think we have nothing to do with technology and AI, we are developing and pulling AI into the core of what we do. We will be, as organizations, developing AI capabilities in everything we do. It's not unlike when we pulled electricity into everything we did. It is that universal. Okay. Specifically, in addition to the large generic models and the moves that we see there are very specialized applications across all industries, across all functionalities. I want to focus on what I know best, which is leveraging digital twin platforms as simulation and scenario platforms as an environment to operationalize AI for decision making. So quickly, a digital twin is what it sounds like. It's a virtual replica of something in the real world. It can be a city, a building, a human body, a process, something that's actually going on out there. Creating a virtual twin of it, gathering as much information, modeling that activity so that we can simulate changes, change an input, see what happens with the outputs, compare different scenarios, and eventually be pulling in real-time data from whatever we're looking at and helping guide operations and decision-making around what we're doing. In the context of cities and building, where I do most of my work, these take many different forms, and everything from beautifully rendered, deep, immersive 3D experiences where you can see what the district or the city or the building will look like, and you can begin to build a community around it by diving in, immersing into that environment and interacting with the other actors and stakeholders, to the more highly analytical, which we've been talking about. Leveraging these platforms to then create agent-based models that actually mimic how a different person or type of people, we can segment our customers, throw them out SimCity-like, running through the different processes in our city, see what that means in terms of our mobility needs, our spending needs, the services we need to provide. With generative AI, we can not only assess the plans that we've created, but we can start to ask the AI to give us better suggestions. One of my favorite examples is where we were looking at comparing different designs to see if they met a 15-minute neighborhood promise that the region had made. And the buildings were so big that everybody's designs failed. So building an application on a twin AI augmented that could run all of these different combinations and identify whether you had a 15-minute neighborhood was one thing. What we're now going to trying to do is ask the AI, since everybody's designs failed, create 10, 15 designs for me that do meet the constraint. Yeah? They may not be fantastic designs, but we hand those back to the architects, back to the designers, and we say, start from here. There are amazing capabilities to start stringing these together in this field. And again, as I mentioned, in cities and for real estate development, this stuff can be used and is productive and helpful and brings value right now, from the very beginnings. Right? So when you're planning a space, doing some of that demographic forecasting, financial forecasting, creating those immersive spaces so that you can communicate, sell, market the plan and the space, to then overseeing and coordinating the actual design efforts, the master planning, the design. Generative AI can help read the designs, interpret the designs, check for are they compliant with the standards that need to be applied, comment back on them. Yeah? I'll show you an example of that. So, been working for the last several years with NEOM specifically, where we've built a digital twin with them, and they have been using it across that value chain. Right? So they've been using it for the visualizations and descriptive analyses. They've been using it for investor and tenant attraction. They can show the space and walk a potential investor through what it will look like, what the population will look like, what we believe the economic activity will be, and you're seeing it, and you can tweak things so an investor can figure out what is the right time for me to come in with what level of investment to do what sort of thing, to then building out predictive models, the simulations, and most importantly, developing an operating model for how to actually use these technologies in the design and decision-making process. It's one thing, and as anyone who's worked with any level of technology will know, the hardest part of technology projects are almost never the technology itself. The AI right now, these platforms are capable of doing amazing things, but have we figured out how to pull them into our operation and decision-making process so that we're actually leveraging them properly? A few examples of how they are being leveraged in this space of building out cities is the examples I've been giving you, but I just want to highlight at the end there. I'm gonna end with a quick 2-minute video of a prototype that we're building that incorporates ChatGPT-like generative AI capabilities that can read documents, read designs, compare them to your library of engineering standards and zoning regulations and so on, and actually score the designs, but also comment back. So the AI can start that work for us of saying, this would be better if, this doesn't quite comply with that. We keep a record of it. Then we bring in the humans to provide the artfulness and creativity that only we can provide. So on that note, I'll just walk you through. This is an example of that where it's a prototype that NEOM is starting to use where someone, as a reviewer of a design, I log in, I see all the different projects I'm supposed to be working on, what stages they're at, what I need to do today in terms of reviewing different submissions. And as I pick one and I drill into it with the documents having been interpreted by the AI already, I can now zoom in on any particular area, see the comments that, as a first draft, the AI has generated, and that I can now go back and forth with the other humans this moving back and forth between the natural language generative AI and the visualizations and simulations in the digital twins allow me to also see what I'm looking at. In this case, if it's a hotel, for example, I am also able to bring in agents and warnings if there are changes in the performance of that asset. This hotel occupancy is taking a dip, but the AI, having learned from the data it has, can make recommendations for me, new products that should be proposed that might address this issue, right? So if you haven't yet used this, you can see how these LLMs, these chatbots, will allow you to verbally interact with data, ask questions, pull out insights for me, simulate what the activity will look like, and enable the planning going forward. To end with, I was highlighting this. They have been using it to walk potential investors. In this example, a retail company is trying to, they're trying to attract them to this island. And the question is, okay, well, what's going to be there when? Where are people going to live in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? Where are the residential populations coming in? What modes of transport will be available? Those are the kinds of information that an investor needs to figure out when and where to step in. And this type of data, for those of you who deal with this space, this is the hardest thing for an investor to actually get access to, is to really understand what things look like out there. I want to make sure I leave a little bit of time for Q&A. I went a little bit longer than I wanted, so I will end with that. And we've got 3, 4, 5 minutes. We've got microphones, I think, out there. If anyone is interested, where are the mics? Can we get one up
Kaveh,
front?
come join me. Kaveh Vessali, everyone. Round of applause, please. Kaveh, come join me over here. They're going to set up for the next panel. So do we have questions in the audience? Amazing presentation. Yes, let's hear.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for your excellent presentation. First of all, I have really a comment for the organizers. It's, here in Qatar, we are an oil and gas company, but I haven't seen anything or a session about oil and gas, AI in oil and gas. So this comment is for the organizer, maybe next year, so they can, because we are an oil and gas country. So the question I have in mind is about digital twin, which you mentioned in your presentation. I am an oil and gas man. I worked all my career in oil and gas. So digital twin, I think, in oil and gas really can do a lot of improvement, because we have large equipment, which if you do a digital twin to this equipment, you can tell a lot. You can predict failure for this equipment. So really, I want your views on this for oil and gas, digital twins. Plus, if you have maybe explain some applications in oil and gas that could use AI also. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. Look, I think the answer to the question, how might we apply this to oil and gas and related industries? The good news is digital twins themselves essentially came out of manufacturing and distribution uses, right? They were initially applied to the idea being, I'm building a jet engine. I don't want to have to strap it to a plane to test it. I want to be able to model it well enough digitally that I can test it. So distribution systems, manufacturing systems, that broader sense can leverage all of these. The kinds of use cases you get out of sensing is by putting the proper devices, sensors, IoT throughout the distribution and generation networks. You can get in real-time information about flows, about leaks, about possible maintenance required, predictive maintenance pieces, like you said. And the thinking and decision-making means that given certain constraints, you can actually have the system, the AI, the twin, make adjustments. It doesn't all need to be brought back to a human for assessment. If you know that the information you picked up is within particular control ranges, the AI agents can go ahead and make changes to the physical space. We see that in buildings, we see that in utilities, we see it in oil and gas. And of course, even the examples about the infrastructure development, you are, in addition to generators and distributors, you are builders as much as anyone else. And so everything else that you saw in terms of developing the infrastructure, those use cases can also be applied in oil and gas. So I think, honestly, front to back, what we've been describing would fit just as well into an oil and gas type of upstream or downstream.
One more question over here, please. Do we have someone with a microphone already? Raise your hand. Yes, this gentleman here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get some, one moment, sir. Can we please get some volume in the monitors? Go ahead.
I want to ask if there is an integration between digital twins and the industrial metaverse.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a little trouble
we just
hearing
need
you.
some
Can you
more
hold it
volume in the
closer,
monitors,
maybe?
please?
Integration between the digital twins concept and the industrial metaverse. Is there any application of that or not? Thank you.
There is, even at the development level that I described, at a larger scale, the digital twins should be viewed as a meta twin, if you will, a twin of twins. So you've got your industrial or engineering systems doing their own simulations. There's no reason to ask a macro digital twin to reinvent the capabilities inside the industrial systems, but the outputs of those systems can be treated as inputs into the digital twin models and predictive models, and they can then be daisy-chained together. One of my favorite examples, again, apologies for this, but with a focus on building out in new cities, is when we assume for a particular area that we may have an anchor tenant that is going to bring this type of employee base. We can segment those employees. We describe them by demographics and income and behaviors, and then we can look at what that means in terms of their demand for services, what they're going to spend on, what they need in terms of mobility, healthcare, and so on. A change to the outputs of an industrial model that is changing the nature, for example, of the infrastructure there means that we're maybe more likely to target a different type of anchor tenant. That means there'll be a different segmentation of employees. That means they're going to need different types of residences and services. So you take the outputs from those core systems, and what a twin can help you do is daisy chain 4 different, as many systems, outputs from one, inputs to the next, outputs from that, inputs to the next, and you get a more longitudinal view that you wouldn't have within the siloed systems.
Because all of the data points you're getting from an individual industrial plant or from a hotel are not necessarily relevant when you're looking at a larger decision-making matrix within a city.
Exactly. So the suggestion isn't to replace the domain-specific capabilities and models with one big twin. The idea is when you want to look across, when you need to look across, this is the kind of tech that can help.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kaveh Vessali from PwC. Thank you so much.
Thank you.